not being able to help them hold a leader. Right. It's automatically connected to your phone. So you have to.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that, but it might be the KW. What's their phone number on that? That's the one you want to add, you have to pick from there. And then double check your website. If not, it might be a KW. I believe just.
We got 8 out of Zoom, so.
The usual here everything.
Hey, Sam, how you doing there, sir? Doing good, how are you? I'm good, I'm good.
Feel fine? It's here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get started.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Everybody get a chance to sign in, grab some coffee or whatever. Okay, Scott. My name's Warren Wessel. For those of you that don't know me, I've been selling real estate here in the East Metro since 1988. Previous to that, I was a high school math teacher for 6 years. I've been with KW now since 2015, over 8 years now. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. And today we should be on 16, working with buyers and sellers. So let's get started. All right. All right, so far we've covered winning the seller and buyer. Now we're going to move on to talk about how you work with clients once you have a signed listing or buyer agreement. Basically what happens between when we have a signed agreement and when you make or receive the offer. All right, before we begin, let's hear about progress with the daily success system from yesterday. Anybody want to volunteer on what's going on? All right, how about how many of you have your birthday in the first quarter of the year? January through. Stephanie, you got anything you want to share?
I think like we've been wanting to keep track of like how many phone calls Amy was on. What did she was on for this year? We already been doing that for this year. We haven't done it for this year.
So you're tracking your calls?
Yeah, we're tracking calls and we're actually divvied it up. So I do all the handwriting for AD and then I do the social media. And then she does all the equipment.
Okay, yeah, right, sure. No, that's good. I mean, that's I'm sure you know, if you read the $1 Million Real Estate Agent, tracking your what to figure out what works, what doesn't work. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So any challenges in particular you want to share with what's going on with the last chapter or any chapter that, or just the weekend? Anybody doing open houses?
Yeah, I did one yesterday.
How did that go? Was it busy or quiet
It
or?
was steady. It was never like crazy busy.
Yeah.
But, we were pretty rarely just sitting there by ourselves.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they are getting activity in the open houses. That's good. Because that's the thing about this business. You never know where the business is gonna come from. You know, it could be just leaving a business card at a checkout or something, or just striking up a conversation with a random person. I don't know. I always like I bought a computer many years ago from a guy when there used to be something called CompUSA. And I just followed up with him and ended up selling my house. I figure if I'm gonna give him business, he can give me business, you know? So you never know when it's gonna come from. Was everyone able to meet with their accountability partner? Was anybody able to meet with an accountability partner? I mean, I'm in my 35th year, but I have an accountability group with 2 other guys. And we just check in once a week and see what's going on. Because especially in a market like this, where it's, you know, kind of funky, interest rates are up, but yet inventory is still low. You know, just kind of get a feel what's going on. And I'm the only one that's experiencing this. And, you know, it's always good because, you know, we're independent contractors and it's very easy to just get into your little hole, especially now that you can pretty much do everything from home. So it's always good to check in with somebody and just see what's going on in the market. Because sometimes it's reassuring to say, oh yeah, there's not many homes out there. So I'm not having opportunity to show my buyers much. All right. Any ahas from the last week? Or over the weekend? Okay. All right, well, let's move on. So at the end of this session, you will be able to identify the key information to build success with buyers and sellers, employ strategies to assist buyers and sellers with their decision-making, build a strong success foundation relation with their clients and co-op agents. To start thinking about what you will learn today, let's consider what questions we might have and what we'd like to learn more about. All right, so find a partner and have a 5-minute conversation about your questions and what you'd like to learn more about. Jot your notes down in participation guide so that sticks with you. All right, so if you got a second, just team up and just we'll give you 5 minutes just to talk about those kind of things. What you're trying to learn here today and any kind of experiences you've had or things you can learn from each other. So give it a couple minutes. We'll see what you got.
You know, right?
Yeah.
Coming up on a month now. Right. Okay.
You know, as part of the team over. So just, you know, managing those expectations I had, you know, just creating my own systems in place. I had, I was using Travis Anderson's transaction environment. Just making sure that I could add my things, make little touches that they. All
They should have some sort of record as to why they did that.
Right.
Not that people are figuring out.
Yeah.
They turn the whole water off the place, not just certain. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So. You see, I think that's better.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to-
I see.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, not going the other direction.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
So.
Find out. Figure out. Very low stairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Foundation. We're also staying.
Right. And they just put it on, and they're like, well, you decide. Right. What is what I'm trying to do?
We have read
It's good luck. It's good to start early. I don't know.
Oh,
I guess.
But-
Just like truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll get a lot of time. So. Well, that's good. What did you end up giving on it? Or getting it?
All right. Anybody care to share what they, we're talking about?
Well, I can say like for me, transitioned over here and I was with the team, Travis Anderson's team, where I had a lot of people as far as the transaction coordinator, marketing people, that there's these systems in place and just making sure that I have the right systems in place.
Sure.
Starting the team here, that I'm not missing anything.
Okay,
You know, through the process.
yeah. Now, have you used Nikki yet for transaction?
Yeah, we were, in fact, I got a land thing that was just gonna help me with here. so-
Okay. Yeah,
That'll be my first using Nikki, but I also had a marketing person that was kind of doing some other touches with our materials. so-
Sure. yeah, well, I would encourage anybody that's in here, if they haven't yet, reach out to Nikki to help coordinate with your transactions, because it's a time saver. The other thing I like about her, like if you have in the purchase agreement where, you know, 1 week prior to closing, the lender will provide the letter. I mean, she follows up on that,
Right.
so you don't have to worry about that. And I think it's a great benefit to what they offer here. Any other input? How about you ladies? Anything in particular that you're looking to learn or discover or improve on?
Not in particular.
Nothing
Fairly
in
new.
particular?
Been licensed in September, so.
Okay, Denise?
Stephanie and I were just talking, and for most of the presenters, we really love the real life example.
Right.
So as you're going, if you've got some real life examples.
Sure.
I think that's kind of the most helpful thing.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
My question was, working with buyers and sellers, get the closing done on the same day, to move them from one house to the other simultaneously. I know that can be tricky, so I'd love to. Hear a tip.
Yeah, that, you know, and that's a good point, because I've experienced that's what can create the most anxiety, tension, and you know, buyers and sellers can get real upset over it. So the best thing you can do is try to negotiate. If you're a seller, if you are, and in a seller's market, you can kind of dictate, really. Just say possession will be 12 hours after closing, 24 hours after closing. I mean, that will tend to alleviate, you know, any issue. You know, but of course, then if that buyer is selling something too, they have to do it on that other end. But yeah, no, but really, I mean, you can have a transaction where everything went smooth, and then it comes to closing day and all hell breaks loose. You know, like, well, they tracked all over the carpet and, you know, stuff like this. And so I don't know, all you can really do is advise your buyer and seller. You know, seller try to leave it. And this is where Nikki comes in great too, because she'll send out an email right before closing. She'll go make sure you do change, you know, all your trash and electric, those kind of things, all the utilities, make sure you change those over. And please, you know, she'll even say vacuum up the house before you leave and that kind of stuff. So she'll leave little notes. And I think it's really good as being the agent to have that come from somebody else, you know, because, you know, our job really is to negotiate. And on the sell side, you know, if you're listing, you want to try to get them top dollar. And as the buyer, you want to get them the best deal. So, yeah, you know, I would say if you're on the listing side, just say, hey, we need 24 hours to vacate the property. And if they're coming out of a rental and you close a few days before the end of the month, sometimes that's not a big deal. Anything else?
If we have, I'd love to hear your opinion if we have time. If you get a sign call and you end up doing both sides of the deal, how you approach that. I had one in Stillwater. And it was,
Wait, people still call on signs?
yeah, that was a sign.
I think the last one I had was
I,
1992.
unless it was, a guy was searching the internet, and just called me from the number that was on it, but.
Yeah,
it
well,
was-
yeah, and I don't know, I mean, I always present the dual agency as a glass half empty, glass half full kind of situation. Because, yeah, on the one hand, I have to represent them,
Mhm.
the confidentiality remains the same. And this is something I was just talking to Doug about. I mean, legally is one thing, reality is another. I mean, ultimately, if you're representing both sides, all you're doing is communicating, here's what they want, and then the other one, here's what he wants. And can we come to an agreement? If we can, good, we got a deal. I think you just need to point out to both sides, when I'm working with you, anything you tell me is confidential. It's just like an attorney, you have the confidentiality. The only things we would disclose is something that would affect negatively the other person's ability to enjoy the property, so. If you tell me, yeah, the basement leaks, but I don't want to write that down. You told me I by law have to, disclose it, so. But it's almost like you have to read them the Miranda rights before you meet him, just so you know, anything you say. Can and will be used against you in the court of law. But, yeah, and everybody has their own perception about, should I use the same agent? That's listing it. Some buyers will say, hey, you're getting both sides, so, I can, you should be able to waive part of your commission for me. I said, you're not paying my commission. I mean, the seller's paying my commission, so. But, so that a lot of times will come up when you're the only agent in the transaction. Some will try to, take part of your commission and just, I say, stand strong. That's agreement between me and the seller,
The seller didn't make change or anything.
Well, sometimes they will, and that's when you have to make a business decision. Some people's attitude is, well, if I give him a little, maybe he'll refer me to more people and be a happier client, because I always tell my clients, I'm not looking this as a one and done thing. I'm looking at this as a long-term relationship with you, so, but again, that's the advantage of being your own boss. You get to make those decisions. How do you want to play it? And everybody's different. I mean, I had one client early in my life that, well, he happened to be my pastor, but he was like, I got the buyer, so I hogged it, and he was thrilled. He said, I was hoping that you'd get both sides. I'd rather give you all the money than give it to somebody else, But so every situation's unique, and you never know what's gonna happen. All right. As we go through content today, listen to hear if your question is answered. And if not, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. Okay. Virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart and a place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They're always thinking of service. And that again is from the millionaire real estate agent. Okay. All right, the point in the transaction we are focusing on today is the time between getting a signed buyer or listing agreement and receiving or making an offer. However, just as you're going to take aspects of lead generation into the transaction, you'll of course take aspects we discussed today through and past closing. Our first topic is success with clients. Let's go over things you can do with both buyers and sellers to make the process as transparent and smooth for them as possible. Okay. One thing I believe is essential is communication and a lot of it. The more you communicate with the buyer and seller, the more it avoids any kind of things, because, you know, things we might understand as, well, everybody should know that, not everybody does. I mean, that's why, you know, some agents are very good at doing the, do you know how I get paid thing? Especially working with buyers, so they don't go through the open house and cut you out, but those kind of things. The keys to success with clients is communication. We've covered this in many ways so far, including the assistance that Command and the KW apps provide in making sure you're communicating with value to your SOI leads and clients. Great communication is foundation for great relationships with your clients. Remember, they are trusting you with what is likely the biggest financial decision and what will serve as the foundation of their lives and the lives of their family. Look in your participant guide. You need to make sure that your communication in these instances provides a strong foundation for a sustainable relationship, sets and manages expectations proactively through the transaction, creates peace of mind for your clients, enhances your credibility. It's important to recognize that you can rarely over communicate with clients. This is a complicated process that they will only navigate a few times in their lives. You will continually set expectations and keep everyone on track with your communications. As we've mentioned, Command and your KW app are here to help automate the process. How many of you use the KW app a lot? That's good. I mean, it's good to be able to be mobile and so you can look at stuff wherever you go. I can tell you quite honestly, I'm not as good on the KW app as, you know, I use the MLS on my phone all the time, but I'm still working on getting a little better at the KW app. Any questions? Okay. All right. Those are the things we want to do with communication. And the one thing too is a lot of instructors and agents will say, you know, sometimes it's good to ask your client, well, are you on text a lot? Do you like the texting? Do you like the emails? I don't know. I'm a real proponent of texts and calls versus emails because I don't know about you guys, but I get so much spam. I mean, I've had clients reach out to me in email and I never even saw it, you know, so. You know, part of it is how do they want to be communicated with, but also how do you feel it would best to communicate with you as, you know, because we are our own business and, you know, gonna tell them this is how I run my business. Text is the best way. If you want to reach me, you know, text or call me because we get spam with so much stuff. Your email may get lost in it. All right, but communication, very important. All right, in addition to the 4 underlying ideas, you need all your communication with clients to convey. Let's remind ourselves of the 3 levels of service from the millionaire real estate agent. Remember, by keeping these levels in mind, you will serve your clients to the highest level possible. Purpose, masters of service. Masters of service have a clear understanding of why they should be hired and can articulate it to anyone at any time. Great service begins with a clear purpose for why someone should work with you. You know, some call it the elevator speech. You know, what are your unique gifts, experience, expertise that help you kind of show above the rest of the possible agents they could work with. Value proposition. The best agents can translate their purpose and why the people should hire them into a specific set of services that they will provide. Fiduciary. Highly productive agents provide a level of service based on their commitment to act as a fiduciary for their clients. They place their clients' interests above all, even their own. A fiduciary brings level of care and trust to a relationship that a functional agent does not. I mean, you know, real estate agents can get a bad reputation. You know, some say we're just one step above used car salespeople, but I think it's very important to point out that under the law, if we're representing either a buyer or seller, we are a fiduciary, which is the highest level of representation that, you know, under the law, we're supposed to put their needs ahead of ours. And I know sometimes if you have a very demanding buyer or seller that, you know, may become an irritant, like, you know, 9 o'clock at night, hey, can you show me this property right now? It's like, I'm sorry, it's probably not going to get into it. But again, that goes back to communication, setting expectations, maybe even, I went to a seminar once and the guy said on his voicemail, and I used this for a while, he puts that if you're reaching this after 6 o'clock at night, I'll get back to you tomorrow morning, you know? And then you call them back at 7, because then they're impressed, because their expectation, oh, I'll wait to hear from them tomorrow, but now you've gone above and beyond. But so that's just little things that can help. You know, it's the old perception is reality. It's like, wow, I must be special, because normally he doesn't call people back till the next day. All right. Now we look at the difference between functionary versus fiduciary. Let's dig deeper into the concept. Fiduciary. We discussed this way back on day 2 in Real Estate Expert. When you operate as fiduciary for your clients, you earn the right to be their expert of choice. Who remembers the difference between a functionary and a fiduciary? Anybody remember that from day 2? I mean, I think the past example just kind of said it. Functionary means you just function and go through the motions, versus a fiduciary, you have a distinct representation and, you know, you're somebody that's really servicing the client and going above and beyond, putting their needs ahead of your own. And here's what they had. A functionary has a specific task relationship with clients. They do the job by dotting the I's and crossing the T's. A fiduciary is in a high trust relationship with clients and always puts their best interests at the forefront, even before the agent's own. And I think that's very important to state that, you know, be it in your listing presentation or first time you meet them, you know, if you do a buyer consult, just say, hey, I mean, just understand the way the laws work. I'm putting your needs ahead of mine. So I'm going to work hard to earn your business and your referrals, you know, from here on. All right. Look to your participant guide for the chart from MREA detailing the difference between a functionary and a fiduciary. Okay. So, I think we handled that pretty good. Oh, here's a question that came up already, dual agency. So, any questions so far? Let me know if I'm going too fast or, okay. All right. If dual agency is legal in your state, and it is, yeah, it's something that, like I said, in my mind, I always say this, you know, it's half full, half empty. Because every listing agreement and we have to determine, there's a, you know, place where it says seller will accept dual agency. And I just say, well, we have a pretty good market share. So if you want to eliminate all the Keller Williams Premier Realty agents, you might be eliminating the buyer that wants to buy your property. And yes, that means I will have a fiduciary, I will have to represent that buyer too. But it also means that buyer's agent will have to represent you. And I always use the example, say that buyer's agent shows up early and you haven't left yet, and you accidentally say something that might, you know, hurt your ability to sell the house. That Keller Williams Premier real estate agent cannot say anything that's, you know, confidential to his buyer. because he has to represent, respect that. Whereas another agent from another company would use that to his buyers and, advantage, so. This is a great place to bring up the concept of dual agency, working with for buyer, the seller, and the buyer on the transaction. Though this is legal in many areas, it is not advisable. Okay, especially as a new agent. Many infractions that endanger an agent's license stem from this practice. So they're just saying, be careful if you do this. Being in a fiduciary relationship with your client means making all decisions based on the best interests alone. This is challenging when you're working for two parties with competing interests. Okay, so that's the book's, take on it. They may come from an area where you don't see the dual agency. Will your buyer expect that if you're telling them everything about a house, even items that may not be required to be disclosed? Will your seller expect that the offer you are making on behalf of your buyers is the best offer since they have knowledge of their pre-approval amount and financing? Okay. That's one perspective. I mean, my perspective is ultimately it's what you guys can agree on, I don't know if you guys that work with buyers, when you have the loan officer write the letter of approval. I mean, I have some loan officers over the years, they've said, well, just give me the address and I'll write it. They're approved for that address. And then others will say, well, we always put in a price amount, and some people think, well, if I say I'm writing a 350 offer and they're approved to 400, I shouldn't show that because they may say, well, you can afford that. So what? It's like, well, in my mind, if I'm the seller, it's like, just gonna afford that. It doesn't mean the home is worth that, but so they're all different types of thoughts on that, about the dual agency thing. And some people look at it like it's one thing is the dual agency is you as a person are representing both versus your brokers representing both. Now that again is in the eyes of the law, there is no difference, Now, even though if you go over to Wisconsin, they have designated agents and they kind of change it up a little, but in the eyes of the law here in Minnesota, whether, I have the buyer and seller, or I have the buyer and Scott has a seller, in the eyes of the law, it's the same thing. Same confidentiality has to be maintained. If I tell Scott anything about my buyer that could hurt my buyer, Scott can't tell his seller, and likewise. But of course, sometimes people don't always follow the rules of the law. So that's why sometimes, dual agency can be an issue. As long as both parties are well informed of what's going on and they approve of it in writing, it shouldn't be an issue. Okay. All right. So, and that can be a personal decision. I knew a couple that said, if they would never represent a buyer on their listing, if somebody called and said, hey, I want to buy this and I want you to represent me, they go, well, that's not our business practice. They just had their business practice was they wouldn't represent buyers on their own listing because they saw that as maybe an issue down the line they didn't want to deal with. So it's really how you want to run your business within the confines of the laws and the statutes is really up to you. Okay. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going too fast here. All right, in addition, you owe confidentiality to both parties. How can you be sure you're not giving away confidential information, even accidentally? Here are some things that can go wrong with dual agency. So they're very anti-dual agency here. Are you really prepared to negotiate against yourself? When negotiating inspection items, how will you make the seller's case to the buyers that the HVAC system is in working order and therefore should not be repaired, while telling the seller that the system is close to the end of its useful life and therefore should be replaced or covered by a seller paid home warranty? Both are legitimate representations on the same issue. They just come from different perspectives. Well, I would say to that, I hate to contradict the information here, but I'm not an HVAC specialist, so I'm not gonna tell you if that is close to the end of its life. I mean, I have a boiler that was built in 1967 in my own home and is working great. My water heater was built in 1983 and it's working great. Whereas you might have a 10-year-old water heater that craps out. That's why, when we signed that little Keller Williams form that says our expertise is not with any of these things. I mean, I think that kind of solves that there. It's like, ask the expert. Because as soon as you go down that rabbit hole, you just go, well, I used to swing a hammer and I think that siding is gonna crap out on you, then you're going beyond your own. So stay in your own lane. Say, well, let's see what the expert says. If the inspector says, or if you don't, then I know that's kind of the real challenge is because a lot of buyers in order to get the house are waiving inspections. What I found something that was pretty interesting. I have some friends that sell home warranties. And I thought, well, they gotta be going crazy. I mean, everybody must be buying warranties because they're not getting an inspection. They said, no, warranties are down. So I would strongly recommend, and as you know, on the purchase agreement, there's a place where they dictate whether or not they're gonna get a home warranty, but I would strongly recommend if you're not gonna get an inspection, maybe just to cover that first year wouldn't be a bad idea to get a home warranty. Question?
Something with home warranties is that a lot of companies that do home warranties, depending on the level of home warranty you get, they require an inspection report to go with it, because then they know, which things they will and won't cover. So that can be just
Yeah,
6 of one, half dozen the other.
yeah. Yeah, the warranty companies I work with don't require the inspection, but that may change,
I know some age of the house. So.
They
that's what
could.
They're like, hey, let us know what the condition is now, because the furnace is already not working. We're probably not gonna cover 100% of it.
Well, and that's the other thing is sometimes people say, oh, I got a home warranty, and then they read in the fine print, we'll give you up to $600 to replace your refrigerator. Well, I don't know if you've looked at refrigerators lately, but
You maybe have.
Have you ever offered? I'm sorry,
You're good.
Have you ever offered home warranties as part of your marketing?
I don't know if I ever have. I know agents that have. I mean, again, everybody makes their own decisions.
Right.
I kind of have an attitude, if I don't live in it, I don't pay for it. But some agents in an effort to win listings will say, tell you what, I'll throw in a warranty. I'll take care of it for myself. And that's, really, I mean, if that helps you get one extra listed, obviously you probably paid for every warranty you bought in your life. So that's not a bad way to go.
I've had them on both ends. I've had sellers that are like, nope, I'm not doing anything. And
Mhm.
I've got. On the buy side, or the seller that was like, I will give you the world and then some, like. After we close, she's like, when everything thaws out, we'll come back so we can clean up the yard, because they have dogs. They're like, we'll do it on us, we'll just come out and we'll just clean up all the dog food, to make sure you're good to go. Once the snow thaws, and I'm like, dang, okay. They provided a home warranty, they said it's questions, they're like, hey, we'll provide up to X amount. If your buyers want it for, some of the cosmetic stuff that needs to be done, I'm like. Sold.
And that's a good point. I'm always amazed at the perspective of a lot of clients. That they think their way is the only perspective anybody could ever have. I mean, like you said, there are some people that'll bend over backwards or just trying to get the deal done. Now, there's others that are nitpicking all the way through, and it's just and you never know. Because especially if you work with people you have known for a long time, friends or whatever. I mean, it's amazing how all of a sudden you see a side of them that you never saw before. And again, that's a decision that I know some agents say, I won't work with friends and relatives because it could end badly and their friendship's more important. And
I tell all my friends and family, I'm like, I don't care if I've known you since I was in diapers. I don't care if I've only known you for a year. You are getting treated just like everybody else. the sale or purchase of your property is a business thing. Our relationship is a personal thing.
Yeah.
And those two things are separate.
And
Yes,
that,
there's gonna be some things I'm gonna be able to tell you and say the specific way because of our relationship. But otherwise, you're not getting treated any different.
yeah. Early in my career, I had a situation where I was working with a guy I used to teach with, and I was showing him homes, and then all of a sudden, he wasn't looking, he said, no, I don't see anything, and then 3 or 4 months later, it's like, hey, we just closed on our new home. And part of me was like, yeah, I'll just let it go, but I decided, no, I gotta find out. And he told me that his fiance had been married before, and he thought that during the process of him buying the house with her, that would be revealed. And he didn't want that to be revealed. I said, well, it's revealed now, and I wouldn't have had to know because, and again, I look at that, well, maybe I didn't properly address it at the beginning, saying, I don't need to know your financial situation. I'll put you in touch with a loan officer. They'll just tell me if you can buy this house or not. I don't need to know your finances, your personal history, or your soon-to-be wife's history, so. But that's just another thing about the communication, and it's hard to cover everything. But, you know, over time, you learn, hey, maybe I should have done this. So anyway, getting off the topic a little here. All right, still with dual agency, but thank you for your insight there. Many agents will work with both sides of the transaction. However, something to think about carefully, especially as a new agent. If you make it a practice not to work both sides of a deal, you can add that to your value proposition so that clients know they will always have your time, expertise, and honest advice throughout their transaction without any competition. So again, like I said, my friends that made it a policy of never representing buyers that wrote on their listings. Like you said, you know, maybe you can use that. Hey, when I go out to list a property, I won't represent. But the problem is you still have the dual agency thing with other agents within the Keller Williams Premier Realty sphere. And I think that's a poor idea to eliminate them because you may be eliminating the best buyer. Okay. Set expectations, and that's kind of what we were just talking about. So we've talked about the 3 levels of service and revisited being in a fiduciary relationship with your clients. You could see that those are the what of being a great agent. Now let's talk about the how of being a great agent. How you will reach the 3 levels of service for your client is largely about communication and education. As a real estate agent, you are immersed in buying and selling houses every single day. It's your job, and for a lot of us, it's our passion as well. For our clients, this is something they may never have done. Even if they are a repeat buyer or seller, they're unlikely to do this more than every 8 years or so, according to NAR's statistics. The stakes are huge. For most of us in the United States, our home, our single best asset. Therefore, you're going to demonstrate your expertise by educating your client on the realities of the market, as well as their personal real estate process, and you are going to do it often. To do this, first, you need to set expectations for the process and communication. All right. A key component to educating your client is to review the entire process. You're likely already touched on it during your buyer listing consultation. However, this is a complicated and emotional process that people don't remember everything the first time you tell them, especially when it isn't in proximity. This is true for almost everything in our lives. If I ask you what you're having for dinner a week from today, would you know? If you don't, are you worried that you don't have an answer? Of course not. That meal is not near your needs right now. Right now, you're much more interested in your next meal, picking up your dry cleaning, getting a present for your niece's birthday this weekend, or a million other things. It's the same with buying and selling process. All right. For example, if you told a buyer they need to get out to see properties the same day they hit the market 2 months ago, when they were focused on getting their down payment together, they likely won't remember the details. You're now setting up the search, you should update them on how quickly the market is moving in their desired neighborhood and price point. Make it clear why it's important to shift their schedule around to the point of inconvenience to see a house that fits their criteria. At this same time, you'll also need to remind them that if they see a house they like, they need to put in an offer right away. The same goes for sellers. Just because you covered how chaotic the first week of the market might be during the listing presentation 2 months ago, doesn't mean they remember. Reiterate how important it is to be flexible for showings. For most people, it's very rare to have to make such big decisions in such a short period. Prepare your clients for this change at their day-to-day pace. This is especially important as you get to the time-sensitive portions of the contract. Often contracts require an answer within 24 hours, if not less, in hot markets. Therefore, you should make sure that your seller knows once the house hits the market so that they will respond to your texts and calls immediately. Remember, you're always staying in communication and setting and reiterating expectations for the process. Now, I would say that in my 35 years, this has been one of the most challenging times to have buyers. And unfortunately, you can communicate to them as much and constantly about this is a hot market. You see something you want, you may have to go 10–15% over. And for a lot of people, that's hard to, put their minds around. It's like, oh, you just want a quick commission, and there's always that thing. But ultimately, it's very rare that a buyer doesn't have to experience not getting the home they want a few times before it really sinks in. And so that's just part of the process. I mean, all you can do is show them the evidence. Like I had a buyer that was a cash buyer about a month ago, found one they liked for 400. And she goes, well, I'm cash, so I'm only gonna go full price. We didn't get it, and we just found out it went for 460. And that's just kind of the market we're in. And you don't make the market, but our job is to, communicate to our clients what they're dealing with. And that's all you can do. Any questions or insights on any of that? Okay.
So you're recommending 10–15?
Well, I would say, find something as an example and just show them, here's what happened. Here was a similar house, here's what they had it listed at. And usually this happens in the beginning of the year where you'll see crazy over, more so than other parts of the year. Because my attitude and my theory has always been the buyers come out before the sellers. Especially if it's buyers in an apartment, go through the holidays, they're not thinking about real estate. New Year's resolution, hey, let's start buying. Let's quit paying our landlord's mortgage, pay our own. And so they get pre-approved, go out and look. Whereas most sellers go, yeah, we got to move. They go, well, we should fix that, replace that, update that, so that's why, I don't know. My attitude has always been, you sell your home on Valentine's Day, you buy it on Christmas Day. And I closed on both of my homes in December. So I think really that's where you get the best deal, because as a buyer, you're not going to have much competition on Christmas Day, and guess what? If a seller has their home on Christmas Day on the market, they want to move. So, but that's just my own thoughts on that.
How do you get buyers or sellers to move at this point?
What's that?
How do you get sellers to move? It's like they've got, even me, I want to live in a different area, but
Yeah.
I'm not trading my 3.25%
Right.
mortgage out for a 7.
And I believe that's one of the reasons we aren't seeing many listings, even though they're up slightly from last year. I don't know if you guys know, but on the Spire website, they post new statistics every week. So you can follow exactly what's going on. And we're up about 10% from last year as far as inventory. Sales are down about 30% from last year. But still, multiple offers are very common. And like you said, people go, well, I still gonna have to have a mortgage. Do I want to pay 6.5, 6 3/4, 7? Or do I want to stay with my 3 1/4? No, and that's why it is a challenging market right now. So you're seeing more people that have to move. Or they don't have a mortgage, they're gonna buy cash. That's a lot what we're seeing because of that. Okay. How we doing on time here? Well, it's 10 o'clock. You want to take a few minute break? All right.
That's very small.
With that, like.
Why not? I mean, figure.
So I'm driving, I'm in the first, so I can drive. There was another one we looked at, I was thinking. It was like older. Yeah, but it was. They should have listed it. That they had it listed for 270. So I'm like, I had to tell her, I was.
Oh, right.
Sit off for 2.
Yeah, right.
That's a goal. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't even want to. Yeah.
What was that again? Oh.
You want to look at, I was like. Oh. Yeah.
Friday, Monday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, I was just following. Yeah.
I guess I'm glad that I put it in the real estate, I just got my license, so I'm glad. It's now I know how to be. And I didn't have anything easy to consider. I know Jackie, but she was. But now.
Well, so that's for.
So, yeah, see where that would.
So it's setting goals to like.
My sister only came in. It was 1 year ago.
Crazy report, it's slower. And
So she,
depending on what.
yeah, so she, no, that's just normal for her.
It's good.
That's right, she's never seen it. But it's nothing.
The time to buy or sell, it's right. And they're.
Warren, nice to meet you. I'm new. I'm really brand new.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It's not.
Yeah. Tell you, be like, hey, just wanted to check in. This is
By yourself?
Saturday, how,
Yeah.
that was kind of what we were looking at. Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
They know, yeah. Actually, that's one girl. I've known her for 20 years. Yeah.
See,
But our-
Usually, oh,
My sister worked
Oh, yes.
in the hardware network.
Okay.
There's a lot of leads.
They started doing that. Well, identical, 1983.
So they call me.
Are they originals?
At this point.
Yeah. This is back in 1990, but it was always, there was like a sport,
Yes.
the local yard.
Yes.
Here, so you go. When you're ready.
Kind of the lumber.
So, yeah.
Danny.
You know,
Who had all the answers? Nice. How long you know that? Oh, yes.
I would so.
Have fun in the water.
you're teaching
And then
pretty
by the
soon.
time classes done,
Yeah.
turn around.
Wednesday.
Well, I-
I'm really, I work, I could work all night and be fine, but this morning.
Yeah. We touched base.
Nice.
But
Where are you?
there you go.
Okay, let's get back to it. Setting expectations. Set time expectations. All right, now we move on to set document expectations. You will likely need to go over the contract before you ever see a house with your buyers and before showing begins with your sellers. By going over it now, when there isn't time pressure, they will have some familiarity with it before they need to rush to put an offer in or quickly decide on acceptance. At each stage, you review with them where you are and where you're going. In addition to the contract, what are some other documents you'll need to go over with your client in our market? Agency, obviously, the first thing. I actually went to just putting a link to the agency on my email. So that way, you're kind of covered, you know? So as soon as you email them something, it's there. I put it in my, you can put it in your matrix thing too. Just put a link in there. So they're always aware of it. One thing I've gone to too is, there is a document that shows the arbitration, kind of explains it. And I actually send it to them when I send the offer to them to sign on electronically. And also, if it's an older house, you have the lead-based paint. There's a brochure that you can send to them, which you're required to technically. So you can put that in there. So your contract's 120 pages, but at least, you're giving them all the information. And I know sometimes it can be overwhelming, just, when you do the buyer contract, the agency and the Keller Williams form, that's a lot. But it's always, again, communication, let them know what to expect. All right. Anything else you can think of that you might want to send them besides agency? What's that? Yeah, arbitration. And I don't know how you guys explain it. I mean, it's, again, a lot of reading and stuff. I mean, there was a time, this is probably, I don't know, 20 years ago, one of the local news stations looked at the arbitration option. And they concluded in their mind, it was more protective of the seller than the buyer. But that's just an opinion. It's, I just pointed out to them, it doesn't matter whether you sign it or not, it won't affect the transaction. It's really a personal decision. And I've worked with attorneys that say, yeah, that's a great idea. And I've had other attorneys say, no, I'll never sign that. So, like many things in real estate, there's options and there are, a lot of times there are no right answers. All you can do is point out to your client pluses and minuses, let them make the decision. Okay. All right, at each stage, you'll review with them where you are and where you're going. Future pace with your clients. Be sure they know everything that is going to happen before it does. For example, when talking to buyers who have just submitted their offer, would tell them how long the seller has to get back to you, what the outcomes could be, accepted, counter, reject, and what the basic steps would be in each of these three scenarios. We will talk more about this on the day we cover offers. And my only thought on that is, really stress to them, this is a business transaction because it's a very emotional thing for a lot of people. And you want to try to tamp down the emotions as much as possible. Just say, hey, this is just what we're considering. They may have a different perspective. Don't be affected strongly either way, because buyers and sellers both can get very emotional when it comes to dollars on properties. All right. Communication expectations, we talked about that a little bit. Ask them how they like to be communicate, with, stress how you like to communicate and the reasons you like to communicate. I just tell them, hey, text or calls is the best way because emails, you never know where that's going to get lost in the spam. So you set the expectations for the communication. Some agents feel they can never turn their phone off or take a day off. That's not a way to live your life. If you will turn your phone off at certain times each evening, make sure your clients know this. If they are aware you won't call them back between 8 and 8, they will not be looking for a reply during those hours. Let them know that you will check your messages first thing in the morning and attend to anything they need then. This goes both ways. Be sure to find out how your client prefers to be communicated with. Do they hate texting and prefer phone calls? Should it be group text to spouse, or does one work overnight and prefer not to be text when they're sleeping? Do they have children who need homework assistance and after dinner and they prefer not to be disturbed from 5 to 8? So again, communication. All right, set contingencies. What will happen if your home comes on the market that is perfect for your buyers the weekend your sister is getting married out of state? Have a plan and communicate it well in advance. For example, if the wedding is on May 1st and you start working with these buyers on March 1st, you already know about the wedding. Communicate it when you meet after signing the agreement and in clear intervals leading up to that date. Be sure they know you have a colleague who will cover the showings if needed. As a listing agent, perhaps your sellers will be out of town and unable to respond to offers on a particular weekend. Get that information well ahead of time and put in the MLS so agents will know they need to provide a longer response time on offers submitted during the weekend. Quick question on that. How many of you, as a rule, put in a time frame for the seller to respond to an offer? Does anybody do that? You do it some? Yeah, I mean, I've done it at the request of my buyers.
I've had buyers request that.
Yeah.
done. Like if we don't have an answer by 7 o'clock on Saturday night.
Right,
Phone our office.
right.
What seller is gonna care about that when they've got multiples coming in?
Right. Yeah, in this market, it's very hard to do that. And I always tell,
Wisconsin, you have to, and those that are Wisconsin.
yeah, there's a place in the offer where you can, I think you can skip it though, too. You don't have to put it in.
I think it's required.
Yeah, we'll have to confer on that later on.
My people will be.
But I point out to them. And as long as you brought it up, Bill. Is your understanding if you put that in the offer, you cannot retract it prior to that time? Or can you still? No, in Wisconsin. So let's say you,
Retracted at any time.
you still can in Wisconsin.
Yep.
And that's what I point out to my buyers in Minnesota. They go, well, you can retract it at any time, so. But, yeah, and in this market, it's almost crazy to put it in because they go, okay.
Yeah.
On the school side, going, hey. We're not gonna be able to respond to this right away. Well,
Right.
the customer company or, you know, what have you, and they only work. On their business stuff Monday through Friday.
Right.
and Offer gets accepted, again, hey. This is an FYI, if you offer is accepted, or you send in an offer on the weekend, you most likely are not gonna get a response on it until.
Right.
Monday or Tuesday of the.
Right.
the following week.
Yeah, so I will say, I did that, when I was working with my daughter, trying to get a townhome. Cause I knew she'd be gonna be living with us, so, in between selling her home and buying the home, and I put it in there that we gotta have a response, but this was in October. So not quite as hot a market in, 2020, and, they did respond and take it. I mean, we went a little over full price, said, hey, but we gotta know, and it worked for them, so.
Yeah, if you're giving up a concession points, I would say, on other things. Such as, we're gonna go with the seller's close date, we're gonna offer you more, we're gonna do
Yep.
no home inspection. We're gonna make this as easy for you, but we do wanna respond.
Right.
pretty quickly. I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just having that initial conversation even with the other agent, finding out what sort of timeline are the sellers on for giving us a response. Do they plan on letting it go through the weekend? Or are they gonna take a good strong offer that comes in on Saturday morning?
Are you presenting as they come in, or are you
And-
waiting?
And getting that, because buyers, they think, well, we got our offer and what's the answer? What's the answer?
Yeah, yeah.
We're excited, what's the answer?
Have you heard yet?
Any updates? Like. Sure, yesterday, I just did like. Yeah, yeah. You didn't get my memo?
Yeah, and you know, it just, again, our job is communicate, here's what's going on in the landscape of real estate right now. Your chances are slim unless you go 10% over, you know, and if you're not, you don't think it's worth that. And, you know, a lot of buyers too are writing in, you know, appraisal clauses that they'll cover, you know, 10, 20, whatever thousand over appraised value. And has anybody had appraisal issues yet this year? Not yet?
The opposite of issues.
Oh, okay.
We got an offer accepted, actually closed in February. 10,000 under list. It appraised at list. But the appraiser missed the bedroom and the bathroom, so we're already that much further ahead.
Oh, wow.
So I had the opposite thing happen. We're really good now.
I had one this year where the seller ended up owing more than they thought. And weeks before closing said, we're not gonna be able to close. The appraisal came in higher. So it took care of that and they were willing to adjust the price to cover that. Had to do a little commissionectomy too, but I got it done, but
I thought if you don't live in it, you don't pay.
up front. And then also my other, everything's negotiable, you know?
Except for wife and kids.
Exactly.
I think that's one of the big things is just out of the whole conversation, communication.
Yeah,
Just make sure that we're talking to the other side's agent and making sure we're all on the same page so we can relay that to the clients.
and just understand that you'll never always cover everything, and that's okay. One thing I learned, and I think it's a good rule to live by, is don't should on yourself. All you do is learn from it and move on, because even after 35 years, I'm learning new stuff every day, so. All right, out of office, set contingencies. Okay, we already went through that. Next one. Set up-to-date market expectations. Updating your client's view of the market is another way for you to show your expertise. They need to understand the realities of the market they are in. It's a seller's market or an extreme seller's market. Are your house sales slowing down? Become more of a buyer's market? Natural trends in housing are often in the news. However, that doesn't mean your clients are paying attention or that they will trend nationally in the same as your market. And, you know, and I mentioned it before, this is why every week I send out 750 emails with the latest SPAR statistics. And one thing I noticed last week, for the first time in many weeks, the median sale price was only 0.5% higher than the same week in 2022. So I think we're getting to the point where prices might be cresting right now, but again, it's so isolated. I think we're in a really niche market where over here, these homes are selling for 50,000 over list price, and over here, it's a little more of a struggle to sell these particular homes. You know, my personal observation, last fall, townhomes weren't moving as quickly as they had in the past. You know, where a single family were still moving, but everybody has their own experiences. Set clear intervals in which you will re-educate your clients on the current market. Move from a median of 60 days on the market to 45 can have an extreme impact on how quickly your client will find or sell a home, and therefore on the plans they have surrounding the sale. Be sure to translate what the market means to them. In an extreme seller's market, where houses are going for an average of 10% over asking, you should be looking at the top of their price point. No? In the market, explain that you are setting your buyers up for success by showing them houses below their price point that they can go over asking on. Know what wins in your market and communicate what that to do and communicate that to your clients. All right. Yeah, and like I said, if you go on spar.com, go to statistics, every week that, you know, they have multiple different, you can do yearly statistics or whatever. I do the weekly update and just send it out to your clients, especially clients you're working with, so they can see, oh, this is why I'm losing out on all these offers and stuff.
What do you include in your weekly update?
What I usually do is put a listing in there. I just use Constant Contact. I put a listing in there on one page and the MLS statistics on the other. Put a link to my website on there. And if I don't have any listings, I, you know, have loan officers that send me, you know, updates and perspective on the market. Last week I sent out the $1,000 drawing thing that I'm a part of, just to let people know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I used to be a math teacher, so the statistics really intrigue me. You know, besides the fact that the median sale price is now only 0.5% higher than the previous, that same week last year. I've noticed that at one point we were at 103% of original list price to sale price. And now we're at about 96, 97. You know, so that's why I call this a niche market, because even though the one $400,000 home went for 460 or 15% over as a whole, and I think it's 13 county metro, we're still down, you know, we're under original list price. But and you know, it may change. This raised interest rates, I thought last May that I saw a severe change. You know, as far as prior to that, you could throw anything and it would, you know, on the market and you get multiple offers. Didn't matter condition, location, anything. In May of last year, I think the interest rates finally caught up, where I actually had to reduce 5 of my properties, 25 to 50 grand to get them sold. So, and it's constantly fluctuating. I personally believe January through April is the best time to sell a house, just from my experience, but you never know. That could change in an instant. Okay. So we have up-to-date marketing expectations. Set expectations seamlessly with your KW Tech. As usual, KW has technology you can leverage to help you show your expertise clearly and consistently and keep your clients up to date on where you are and where you're going in the process. Utilize the custom checklists and smart plans and opportunities in Command. Any of you using the smart plans? Okay, so a few. That's the thing with technology. There's so much you can do and it's overwhelming. So good for you for using that. Market updates can be part of your custom checklists and smart plans. We will cover checklists more in our contract to close session. Share your KW app and be sure your buyer and seller guides are up to date and in sync with current market conditions. For example, in parts of the country where national disasters have made home insurance significantly more expensive in recent years, perhaps you move checking for insurance quotes up in your buyer's timeline from post-inspection to buy during the inspection and due diligence period. If your market is slowing down, you may put more time early in your seller timeline for home staging to be sure the house will show well in the first days on the market. 2 items you should input into your checklist in Command are to ask for reviews and referrals. How many of you guys do the referrals and reviews? Do you ask your clients to do that? You do? I've gone to just doing the Zillow. But be ready though, sometimes you get surprised. I had a client last year that, you know, she called me well in advance. We did the market, we set the plan. She wanted to sell, you know, like in May or June, but didn't move out to August or October, September. And, you know, we watched to see what was going with the market. We listed it. We had 18 showings, only 1 offer, sold it for right around full price or shortly less, and everything went smoothly. She got out on time and everything. And then I just stumbled across her review and she just blasted me, said, we never communicated and he forced me to take the offer. It's like, okay. But again, don't be surprised with people, you know, it may be a little cynical, but I'm almost surprised when they don't snap and turn on you, you know, because it's a very emotional process. And, you know, your perspective of what's going on might not always be their perspective. You know, I look back, you know, maybe I could have communicated more with her. I'm not sure. But some of them you just have to write off with. Exactly. All right. We have the participant guide, 3 steps to gaining referrals. All right, so you're supposed to refer to your participant guide. All right, you might be thinking we haven't even put in an offer on a house. Why am I asking for reviews and referrals? Because you're already providing value and they might give you a better review in the beginning, which is the first step to gaining referrals and reviews. From the beginning, tell your client, throughout the process, I'm going to give you amazing service and earn your trust so that you want every member of your family to work with me. 68% of sellers who used an agent found their agent through a referral by a friend or family member. There are 3 simple steps to gaining referrals. Provide value, provide stellar service, provide education, advice, and care. Ask for help. Let people know that your business is based on referrals. Your conversations book has some great, easy ways to ask for help. It can be as simple as, I rely on referrals. If you know anyone that is looking to buy or sell, I'd be grateful if you could let me know. Please don't know what you need unless you ask for it. Okay. Reward the behavior of referrals. Don't wait for closing. As soon as a client or other member of your SOI tells you that you gave out your information, mention on your social media or someone's called based on their recommendation. Thank and reward the person who referred them. Send a card with a gift card for coffee. Take them out for coffee, or better yet, send a small gift to their office where not only will they feel appreciated and others might ask about it. All right, reviews. Finally, ask for reviews throughout the transaction. Has anyone in here done work on their house recently and needed a plumber or contractors? or maybe moved and needed to find a daycare for the children, a new hairstylist or mechanic. How about dining at a new restaurant? Where did you start your search? So, I mean, I think referrals, I mean, do a lot of you look online before you go to restaurants, or is it mostly word of mouth? What's that? Both? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you might get. I look at it like, it seems like every time you do something, they're always asking for referrals. You know, you fill out a little form online. Oh, how'd we do and stuff. So I think people are more accustomed to it. Some people might be a little burnt out by it. But all you can do is ask. And if you don't ask, you probably will never get one. So. Yep, reviews. We all use the internet pretty much daily to read reviews on businesses to make our decisions. Buyers and sellers do the same. You need to be sure that you have as much of a positive web presence as possible. In great news, you already have your own website through KW. It's the one place you'll be sure your reviews are accurate and accessible. Telling potential clients how successful you are at finding and selling homes can be effective. It's even more effective when other people do the bragging for you. Lend statements to credibility. It's a great piece to use in your marketing and buyer and seller presentations. Share your thoughts on where reviews seem to be best placed in your local market. Well, I think you have, Zillow and Realtor.com are two good spots. There's a lot of them out there. Anybody else know of any other real estate agent reviews? Google reviews? Okay.
Or they can do it on my Facebook.
Okay, that's good. Most important thing you can do to get reviews is familiar, give value and ask. You should start your relationship by letting the client know that you're asking for their 5-star review, just like you did with referrals, and remind them throughout the process. Yeah, basically what I do is after the closing, and I'm going to be more selective from now on, but I just say, here's a link to fill out a review for me. I hope I've earned 5 stars from you, so. All right. Check out this request for a review. If your purchasing or selling experience exceeded your expectations, would you be so kind to give me a brief review? I'd also like your permission to use this in my advertising and marketing. That's one way to ask for it. Seller-oriented reviews gain attention when they address things like the client's homes sold quickly, they got their asking price or above, they're impressed by the service. Excuse me. All right, seller's review. Oh, that was that. All right, okay. For buyer's review, the buyer found more likely to give you a good review of the buyer found their perfect home quickly. Agent negotiated a great price. Good luck with that. The transaction went smoothly. They're impressed by your service. All right. So I got a lot to cover here, so I might speed it up. If you have any questions, please just raise your hand or yell at me, either way. All right, we're gonna skip the ahas. All right, so we've covered a lot so far, from dual agency to reviews and referrals. Most importantly, we've talked about the key ways to create happy client relationships. Consistently and clearly communicate regarding the current market and the process of buying and selling. Now let's specifically talk about what buyers need from you. All right, so here are the charts at high level. 3 largest components of the other category are help with paperwork, 8%. Determine what comparable homes we're selling for, 6%. How to determine how much buyers can afford, 4%. Okay. So this is the chart of what helped find the right home to purchase. you know, and this is the thing that I look at, the perception of most buyers that I've encountered is finding the house is the most important thing we do. It's like, well, in today's day and age with Zillow and Realtor.com and stuff, in my mind, you know, that isn't the most important thing. Anybody can find the homes. It's a matter of getting them in there, negotiating the price and making sure it's a smooth thing. And that's something you work with is people's perceptions and reality. And that's part of our job is to educate them to what really our job is, you know, is the reality of it is, I'm going to help you make this a smooth proposition, and in this market, try to get you the best deal you can, you know. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting them a house, you know, I mean, not to shoot on myself, but I realized and I learned from it that I had a client that really wanted a house and she didn't get the home, even though hers was the best offer, because we didn't put an appraisal clause in there. Even though she was putting a lot down, you know, I kind of assume, well, they'll see that she has the ability to buy it at whatever price, even if it doesn't appraise. You know, we're putting like 35% down. But I still believe had I put in that buyer agrees to pay up to $20,000 over appraised price. Now, she may or may not have agreed to that, but it's something you want to say, here's a strategy that might help you get the property. Okay. But that is funny. They still think that finding the right home to purchase is 52% of our job. And, you know, they seem to really put value in that. Well, you didn't find that, I did, so I should have higher commission. So, and that's part of the struggle and what we deal with is perception versus reality. And all you can do is educate them to what reality is. All right. Buyers need analysis. Now, and this may be a little more trivial in today's market, just because there are so few homes. I mean, you want to find out what triggers them, what's gonna really get them over the edge, you know, and you got a bunch of stuff there you can look at. You know, and that's why, again, about communication, and I don't know if you ever heard, the person that asking the questions is the one that's in charge. And that's why, you know, sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, just like, well, I don't want to just keep asking them questions. They'll get bored with me or tired of me or irritated by me, but that's your job, is to dig down. Well, you know, I want to live in this area. Okay, what's important to you about living in this area? Oh, they have a really good school district. Oh, so you're saying you want to be in school district 833 or whatever, you know, drill down on it, because sometimes they'll say things. And if I had a nickel for every buyer that says, I want to live in this area with this style of home and this price range, and then they ended up with something totally different. And I use that as an example. Sometimes it's hard to know until you actually go through the homes, see what homes are valued at nowadays, what's going to work for you. So don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions. All right, buyers' lives change or buyers' world changes. So the things we've talked about fall into two categories: buyers' life change and the world around buyers change. In either case, buyers' need can change, whether changing their lives or the world around them. You may need to revisit the needs analysis during the transaction. Like, I'm sure a lot of people that were caught up last year and looking for houses, and then all of a sudden the rates went up on them. That changed a lot of what they could do or what they were comfortable doing. And I always tell people, you know, there's, you know, loan officer would tell you what you qualify for. But the other thing is what you're comfortable with. They'll show you what your payment will get you, and you have to know what feels comfortable to you. So it's not always just math. There's a lot of emotions involved too. Revisiting the needs analysis can help you find out why homes that should be perfect for your buyers are not inspiring offers. Believe it or not, sometimes what we think we desire is not what we need. You're showing them all the historic houses you would have them thrilled to a tepid response. It's time to find out why. Again, ask the questions. It's also common for buyers to get frustrated in a tight market and start looking outside of their criteria. Maybe you have empty nesters looking to downside who suddenly start looking closer to the current square footage. If so, it's time to find out why. Are they realizing that their earlier number was too small? Or are they just getting frustrated at not finding what they need? This is also a great tool to use when buyers start looking above their price point, revisit their needs and their criteria. Remind them that you are the fiduciary, not the person who opens the door. And again, you have to, like you saw, the perception is 52% of your job is just finding the home. You have to convey to them, no, I'm here as a counselor to help you drill down on what you're looking for. I had a buyer once, they said, we only want to look up 350. And then I listed a home for 430. And they knew the person that was listing the home. They were like, well, why didn't you tell us about that one? Well, you said 350, so, and they ended up buying it. But I was just gonna say, there is that theory. So you never know what a person is gonna end up with. And I tell them that. I said, this process is discovery, because you may think you want something, but again, your world may change or you find something else that works better for you. Tough conversations versus fiduciary equals fiduciary. Thorough and frequent revisiting and revise needs analysis is your greatest resource in having tough conversation with your clients. Conversations about what they can afford, the realities of the market, timelines, and move-in ready versus fixer uppers are strengthened by referencing the needs analysis. What are some of the conversations you need to have with your clients along the way? Yeah, so I would say that especially with the changing in the rates, I mean, okay, that's not gonna work. Do you still want to buy or are you gonna stay where you're at? Because I know of a few buyers I have, they're like, well, we're just gonna wait till the market comes down. When's that gonna be? Who knows? You know, so yeah. And I always tell people, especially if they're renting, I said, well, you can pay your landlord's mortgage or you can pay your own, you know? And how soon do you want to get started on paying your own mortgage? But I totally understand why people are a little hesitant right now, so. Show homes based on need analysis. So what they're saying is don't waste a lot of your time showing stuff that you know that's not going to work for them. And that's why it's great nowadays where you just set them on an auto search and they just let you know what works for them. But there's a lot of times I'm set up on an auto search, but then they're selling me all this stuff from Zillow above their criteria. I said, should we change that criteria? And, you know, all you can do is ask the questions. Yeah, and this is just some more key things to do, show them the best properties. And that was probably in a day and age where there was more than one property that matched your buyer's criteria. But you know, it's often, you know, good. I'll have sellers ask me or buyers ask me if they're considering writing an offer, if I could do a market analysis for them, a quick review of what homes have sold for. And I always tell them too, especially in the beginning of the year, you know, prices may have gone up now, so it may not reflect properly the value of this home. Because, you know, I had a home that, you know, we could only get 207 for last December, and then it fell through. And then in January, it went for 214. So same property, different market. So you want to do the best you can. And I think the important thing is just to keep reminding the market's constantly changing with the interest rates and plus Minnesota is very seasonal. It's probably most states are, but I would say, you know, shortly after Halloween through mid-January, it's pretty quiet usually. And then the buyers start to come out. And I think we're affected by this long winter too. At least that's what I'm telling myself is that, yeah, it's a little slow, but you know, the winter is, we had a ton of snow, a ton of cold, so it may take a little longer for the spring market to get going, even though technically it is spring. All right, once you're ready to show homes to buyers, always read the listing agent remarks and be sure that you're scheduling according to the listing agent's instruction. Calling the listing agent to schedule an appointment when the instructions clearly say they would like to use a scheduling service will not endear you to them. But yeah, and that's one thing you really have to watch, you know, the seller comments. Because I've had it where, you know, I showed a home, you know, my buyer said they want to look at a home on one day, we set it up for the next day, went and showed it. And before I went to show it, I should have checked, well, it would have been advisable to check to see if the comments were changed, and the agent comments were, it's like, you know, highest and best due, and, you know, an hour before I showed it. And some agents are good at communicating, you know, like they'll use showing time to communicate to you, hey, we've accepted an offer. Or I don't know, personally, if somebody sets up a showing after my deadline, I call them and say, hey, we got a deadline here an hour ahead of your showing, anyway, you can get in there earlier. But and I've had I think 2 years ago, I had 3 listings that sold sight unseen, just in coming soon. And you never know if that's gonna happen. I have had that happen to one of my buyers. It's like, oh, they're coming soon Friday, so we'll look at it then. And then our showing is canceled because, yeah, we accepted an offer, and they're like, well, how did that happen? Well, somebody bought it sight unseen. I go, well, that's crazy. Glad you feel that way. So we didn't miss out on anything then. But it's always good to check the comments. You know, you have to check showing time. You know, also check the agent remarks in the MLS. And I will, you know, I kind of make it a habit if something's coming on, even if it's 0 days on the market, I'll call the agent and say, do you have any offers, or how many offers do you have? And that's something too, that's kind of interesting. How many agents will just spill their guts over stuff sometime? And I'm like, you really shouldn't be telling me that, but thank you.
It could be surprising.
Right, like, well, we really want to close on this date, and you know, which is nice to know for your buyer, but as a seller, I'm reticent to ever give out that kind of information. I always say, we're negotiable, you know? No, but when do they really? We're negotiable.
My favorite question to ask is, tell me a little bit about why the sellers are wanting to sell their house. And then I just look at that.
Right, right. You really can. It is amazing.
I'm actually surprised how many calls you don't get. Where you get offers show up and it's like,
Oh, I know.
that's like, what, I didn't even know it was coming.
Right, right. And again, that's communication.
Especially if I know it's something that my buyer, like, potentially will write an offer on.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me a little bit about the house, so I have some talking points while we're going through.
All right. Yeah, and again, communication, you know?
I have one offers because of that. We weren't the highest offer, but the relationship I had with. the
Sure.
Listing agent, communication. Listing agent vouched for the fact that they, communication's gonna be so regardless of that price, it's gonna probably be an executed transaction.
Right.
Worked out well for me.
Yeah. All right. Agent interaction, which is so much fun. Yeah, and you know, that's the other thing too is you know, treat the other agents with courtesy and information and try to make sure, because your job as a fiduciary is to get as many offers as you can. And that's why I don't understand why some agents just don't communicate. It's like, Yeah, you don't know, my buyer wouldn't have gone 100,000 over cash and yet. So, anyway, there are way too many. There are way too many. Yeah.
I can't find your.
All right, home toolkit. Do everybody have your home tour toolkit?
Oh, yeah, in my back pocket.
Yeah, it is good to have a tape measure in here.
Yeah, I was a Band-Aid.
Of course, flashlight, everybody has one on their phone nowadays.
What are the last lines?
Paper goods, it says paper goods, tissues, toilet papers, and paper towels.
And then what's on the next line?
Is there toilet paper on that list?
Yeah. It says paper goods, tissues, toilet paper, and paper towels. That's what the line that's covered up says.
There it is.
Okay. So you may or may want to do that. Yeah. Hey, be ready for a snowstorm.
I have little toys on my keychain that I give the kids to keep them on their.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Like, hey, you can play with this, you don't have anybody else's stuff.
All right. Safety first when showing homes. Don't forget safety. Remember the tips from open houses. Always be aware of your surroundings and only meet clients that you've already vetted. Do not go to vacant houses with unknown buyers alone. Follow your instincts at any point. Do not feel safe for any reason in the showing. Always announce yourself, even if you've been told the listing is empty or the owner will be gone. Knock before opening the door and announce yourself loudly and repeatedly upon entering. Yeah, so if you've been around long enough in the business, probably seen some startling things.
Walk out of the shower and go, I didn't hear you, and I'm like, that's fine, you wanna get dressed? We'd like to continue the showing, I'll go downstairs first.
It wasn't your listing?
No, this is the
Okay.
buyer.
Back in the day when, yeah.
Behind me, so.
back in the day, we used to do every Tuesday, we did tour new listings. Back when they weren't selling in 24 hours and we had an agent in our group that did the same thing and he said he can't unsee that.
I've had people like just door knocking, answer the door, look naked, and I'm like,
Seriously,
I mean, it's your house, and do you, but please don't answer the door like that.
did you run away very fast?
I just gave them the flyer and walked away.
Especially rental properties too.
Oh, sure.
Renters forget.
Yeah,
For the proper notification.
Yeah, we had a loose dog the last one.
Oh.
I opened that door and it was.
Quick.
yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah, but, and you know, too, I've had, sometimes been requested to go along with another agent in case they're meeting somebody someplace, but I'd say as a rule, just don't even do it, especially to a vacant house,
Yeah, I had it happen once and I don't want it to happen again, where I was meeting a buyer that I had talked to him on the phone, but I hadn't actually met him in person yet. We were checking out this place for an investment opportunity. I showed up, locked my car doors because I showed up early, just to be safe. Vacant house. Didn't show. And my brain started spinning. I'm like, okay, was I set up? Like, I notified my people, my go-to people, okay, this is the house I'm going to, this is when I'm gonna be showing it, so that I was safe that way. But I was on my own, and I was in a neighborhood I wasn't familiar with. They didn't show up, and I'm like looking around, I'm like, okay, is somebody watching me, waiting for me to get out of the car? So I'm not the biggest person, can defend myself, but I'm not the biggest person. And car showed up. Not who I was expecting. It ended up turning out fine. It was a different investor person that was just kind of checking out some of the listed homes in the area. And I ended up showing the property to them. But it was a very uncomfortable situation.
Sure.
And it could have turned out really badly.
Yeah, and it's always good to be cautious and
When in doubt, I do a Zoom meeting, so I at least can see them.
Safety class on Wednesday, 1 o'clock here in the office,
what date is that, Bill?
on Wednesday.
This Wednesday, 1 o'clock, CE safety?
Yeah, the office is.
Is that self-defense class?
Yeah.
How many credits is that, Bill? 2 credits, all right.
Register for that?
I think just drop your name with the end.
Is there a cost associated with it or just that's?
Yeah, another thing besides security is your health. I mean, especially when there were a lot of vacant homes back in the 07 to 11. There, you know, I'm allergic to mold. So if I open the door and it smells like mold, I just tell my client, you're free to go in there to, if you want to risk it, I will not be going in there. You know, because it's not worth hacking up blood just to show a house, you know.
So do people take you on inspections just to find mold?
What's that? Yeah, right.
Like a mold detector?
Well, there are all types of mold, as you know, Nick, and some are dangerous and some aren't. There's mold everywhere. I'm not a mold expert. So anyway, moving on. Job equals sell home, job not equals show homes. Remember, your goal is to sell a home, not show homes. Pay attention to your home buyers' language and cues to avoid continuing to show them homes they don't like, even if they are the best ones from your search. Show the buyer the first 2 homes on your list, they hate them, and you know they will hate the third, cancel your last showing. Use the time to dig deeper in the preference and needs because you missed something. With each showing, you should be getting closer to putting in an offer. Consider this property elimination question. If you had to choose a property house to purchase right now, which one would you select, A or B? Okay, great. We can cross off A from the list. And this again goes back to when you used to show 6 or 8 homes in a setting. You know, I always tell them to compare the first 2 homes, which one you like better, eliminate the next, then compare that to the previous one, etc. There may be a day we start using this kind of stuff again when there's more than one home that matches.
I tell my buyers, when we go out and we've got multiple homes, we can show the one, even if it doesn't make sense in route. I'm gonna show you the one that I feel based on our needs analysis fits you the best, and then it'll go down from there.
Oh,
And that way, I've actually gotten quite a few that we canceled the last couple showings.
Yeah.
Are they just gonna get worse? I'm like, yeah, that's what I said earlier. And then we have it right.
can save yourself some time that way. Okay.
Then I got time to write the offer.
All right, reasons buyers hesitate. Your job is to help your buyer make the best decision. Buying a home is a big deal and buyers can experience hesitation and reluctance. They're afraid to commit. They don't like some minor detail of the home. They feel they haven't seen enough homes. I've had that. They need to sleep on it and get the opinion of a trusted advisor. And again, that last one goes back to communication up front. Is there anybody that needs to see the home for you to make a decision? If yes, let's bring them along. Because, you know, again, you're like they're saying, your idea isn't to show homes, it's to sell homes. Okay. Guidelines to facilitate decision-making. Always go back to their motivation. Go back to their needs and wants, advise them as a consultant and fiduciary. Allay their fears, solve their challenges, calculate the costs of waiting. You know, and again, you can always use experiences and other people's experiences to help when you're dealing with something. I had a young couple that we actually, they found a home they liked, and before we looked at it, they canceled. But then we called the listing agent and they agreed to put it back on for a short time for us to go through. Or yeah, it was canceled. So he said, yeah, you can go through. It's fine. We're going to put it back on. And we did that in like December. They were going to put it on in February and January. We wrote them an offer. We went back and forth. We were $5,000 apart. And they just wouldn't come up to their price. So the sellers put it back on the market here in end of February or mid-February and sold it for 15,000 more than they could have got it for. So now I just need to point out to them that, see, you had 15,000 in instant equity, but because you were stuck on your price. But I have to give them a pass because their mother believed that all the houses were gonna go down 20% this spring and it'd be a vast buyer's market, so. And as I point out to every young couple that I meet with, I said, you can bring your parents, but they are the kiss of death when it has to you buying a house.
And it must be at every show.
Right, right. Bring duct tape, exactly. Yeah.
Either.
Any ahas? All right. Holy cow, they got a lot of stuff in here. All right,
No break,
what's that?
no break.
No break? You guys good with that? All right, we've covered some common aspects of working with buyers from agreement to offer. Now let's focus on the seller's needs for us during this period. All right, so here is what sellers want most from their agent. And it's pretty split up. Help price home competitively. And I don't know about you, but what I do is I'll show you the evidence. You decide how you want to evaluate that. And the key is, if we don't have an offer in this market in 10 days to 2 weeks, an adjustment is needed. Help seller market home to potential buyers. Obviously, the MLS is the main tool we have that then populates out to all the websites. Help sell the home within a specific time frame. And that's what I try to point out. The average days on the market now, I don't know what we're at, about 45 or so. Has anybody looked like lately? So that tells us if we're on the market 47 days, we're not priced appropriately. And that can be one of the biggest challenges is some sellers just grab onto a number and they won't let go, no matter what you tell them.
That type of script, if somebody's just trying to push the envelope of too high of a price.
Well, I mean, anybody know who Mike Ferry is? I think his son now is a big motivational speaker, realtor expert. He always told his sellers, I do 90% of my marketing before I put the home on the market by doing a proper market analysis. So, and I just use the old 10 to 14 days. If we don't have an offer in 10 to 14 days, the market is telling us your home is not that value as of now. You know, and you try to remove yourself from it. It's like, well, I don't think you'll get that. You say the market is telling us based on the current things that are going on in the world right now, there are no buyers willing to give you that money. Okay. Help sellers find a way to fix up home to sell it for more. Yeah. And you know, that's what you get. Some sellers say, well, what do you think we should do? I always tell them kitchens, bathrooms, flooring and walls. You know, after that, could you replace all your windows? Yes. But if you have a contractor do it, you probably won't recoup the value. Okay. Because really it's about updated kitchens and bathrooms. A lot of people will overlook a lot of stuff if they got a brand new kitchen and brand new bathroom. All right. Sellers needs, price, time frame, and conveyance. You know, so you want to find out what's the most important thing to them. Is it getting the most money, which for most people it is? Is it how quickly it sells? Or, you know, I've even had some, well, we want to sell it and do a rent back. I had one that I sold earlier this year that it was a past client, had been in their house a long time. He's retired, she's retiring next fall of 24. So they wanted to find a buyer that'll buy the home and let them rent it for like 18 months. So we had to look to investors, you know. We did find some money. And actually, I hogged it, so which was kind of nice. I had 2 offers from 2 different buyers. But, you know, that's what they would want. I don't think they got as much as they could have if they would just sold it to a regular buyer, but that was the most important thing to them. Okay, and, anyway, okay, let's move on. Again, back to the seller's life change or seller's world changes. Just as the buyers, when things aren't going as they think they should, you need to revisit and perhaps even revise their needs analysis. You know, and that happened when, and a lot of people say 08 is when the market started going down, but it was really 06, maybe even the end of 05. And I had some sellers that wanted to sell in like 06, and again, they hung on to a number. And we ended up selling it about a year and a half later for 40,000 less than we already had an offer. And that's something you can always use. Now, we haven't experienced a down market really since, I would say 2011 was the last year of a non-appreciating market. So are we close to topping out? I think we could be. But that's why I look at the statistics every week to see what's going on. And again, it's on spar.com. It's pretty easy to find. It's available for anybody. So, for example, the seller could lose their job, so carrying the mortgage on the house becomes difficult or impossible, thus changing their time frame. Perhaps the seller finds their dream home, puts in an offer, and needs to remove predication ASAP, also changing their time frame. Or perhaps the local economy shifts, putting fewer buyers in the price range on the market and or flooding inventory as people sell to move away, which could shift their price and or their conveyances. Stay in touch, over communicate, and know when you need to change your game plan by altering the needs analysis. And this is something we probably got away from because home selling so quickly, you put it on Friday and say, we'll look at offers Sunday night or Monday morning. But if it is a market that isn't moving, make sure you check in with them at least once a week. You know, sending them statistics, help them to see, you know, what they need to do. Price and condition. Those are the 2 things that sellers can control. Your job is to know the market and advise them how to get the best price with the least work and the quickest time frame. Therefore, you need to know your market to know how they can best prep their home. Okay, then again, my adage is always, you know, first impressions are important. Interiorly, kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, and, you know, neutralizing, and trying to appeal to as many people as possible. Always use the adage, we're trying to remove objections, okay? A buyer will make an offer when they don't have objections. So we want to remove as many objections as we can. Sensitive seller conversations. Getting a home ready to sell the highest price with the least work and the best time frame can involve some sensitive conversations. Hardly anyone needs their house, keeps their house show ready all the time, and it's more of a challenge for some sellers than others. What are some of the issues that come up with sellers in the condition of their home that you have to deal with delicately? I would say pet odors are probably one of the top ones. You know, because a person that lives with a pet every day gets used to the smell and won't notice it. Smoking, mothballs or unclean condition, cluttered conditions, deferred maintenance, personalized decor, removing sellers for showings, illegal activities, guns in the house, cash, jewelry, or other expensive items in the house. I always advise my clients to lock up everything. Just assume that, because, and you know, pharmaceuticals, I had someone do an open house for me on a listing once, and my seller called me afterward and said, yeah, some of my pills are missing. And so that can happen.
We had that when I was on Chris Jensen's team, one of her listings. Another agent went in and went after their medication. And the agent didn't realize that the house had security in it. So The agent went in, went straight to the bathroom, went straight to the medicine cabinet, grabbed everything he could, and then still continued to do the showing, just kind of walking around looking at stuff. And you can see him in all the different action or in all the different videos. And then he walks into the room where all the screens are and he sees himself. You can see that, oh shit moment. And he just got out of there as quickly as he could.
He didn't put the medications back?
He didn't call me anxiety.
He's no longer a licensed agent, I take it?
He did have some fines and some suspension.
Wow, yeah, yeah, but, oh,
I've had to tell people, put the alcohol away. It's like the whole bar set up in the middle of the kitchen counter.
oh, really?
Yeah. it's
That can be
like-
sensitive.
Bloody Mary bar.
It's a little inappropriate to put with wine bottles.
Some of those.
Yeah, it's one of those things, we found that homes sell better if you don't have booze sitting out all over, so.
Not this much.
I see a fridge that has a sign,
Yeah.
beer inside, it says take a beer on you.
Oh,
And then there's that, yeah.
And then there's that, yeah.
well, that's a marketing ploy, though.
Yeah.
All right. The same with, sellers' communication, constantly reassuring them and showing them what the market is doing, changing. So, it seems like there's a general theme here, communicate, 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 you know? All right, participant guide. Might violates fair housing laws. And that's something too that, I've heard of stories where people go to a listing and then the sellers say, only want to sell to a specific type of person. Those are conditions where you almost might go, well, I'm not the agent for you. I probably would educate him that that's illegal and against fair housing laws, so you're not gonna be able to sell your house in this state if you do that in this country. But yeah, that's a real touchy one. You're almost better going, yeah, maybe we're not a good fit, you know? And then also about, along with that disclosure, that's why it's almost like you say, Mirandize them when you first come. We need to be totally, I said, and I always say that, it's better to tell them now than be in a lawsuit after we close when your next door neighbor tells them, any issues. The biggest one is always water. And water in the basement. And just, even probably people that you think, well, they're totally honest. When it comes to stuff like this, you really gotta, now, have you ever, even one time, the downspout came off or the kick out wasn't there. Oh yeah, we did have that one. Because like I say, it's always better to get them to fess up now than deal with a lawsuit later. And then no commission is worth your reputation. We have the KW standards, win-win, integrity, customers, commitment, communication, creativity, teamwork, trust, equity, and success. And it's, probably a good thing to point that out to your sellers. Just say, hey, we're not just any fly-by-night real estate company. We have integrity and we have, things that we live up to. And getting a win-win thing is always the best possibility. 14-step marketing plan. So far, we've focused on relationship and communication with the seller. We also covered seller needs and saw that sellers are looking for an agent to market their home. Let's talk just a little more about how you're going to market the listing and your brand. High productive listing agents market both the brand and their listing at the same time. The marketing opportunity provided by listing is why they are one of the three pillars of our successful real estate agent's business. Leads, listings, and leverage. When you focus on listings, buyers will come. I've already talked a lot about how you can do this in our sessions and on lead generation, particularly open houses. Open houses should be one part of your marketing plan as they are highly leveraged. MREA has 14-step marketing plan for listings. I don't think we're gonna have time to go over that right now, and they don't give it to me, so. All right. But I think the main thing that I focus on, bless you. In this market, the most important thing is how the property looks on the internet. And that's why I tell them I use professional photography in upper bracket, I have used drone shots, especially if it's, near a lake, on a lake, near a river, or a very wooded area. And then, professional photography, I mean, you still, and probably more likely because it is such a seller's market, you can find properties that, the agent just took their phone and took pictures, and I think that's gonna cost you money because most buyers see the property on the internet before their agent even gets a chance to show it to them online or send it through Matrix. So it's so important the way it looks online. The message you put out to attract prospective buyers and sellers is everything. Why would they want to contact you in this market? What would they get if they did? These are two questions at the heart of all effective messaging. Again, finding your niche, setting yourself apart based on your education, your background, your expertise, whatever it is. Maybe you're real good at staging homes, bring that up. Or maybe you're good at analyzing comparables, bring those things up, set yourself apart. All right, your MLS listing reflects the brand, so you get it right. Right documents, right professionals to get your pictures and floor plans, and that's what I was talking about. The right schedule for your listing. Now, this is something everybody has their own opinion on setting up showings and how you have showing time set up. To me personally, it's very aggravating when a buyer wants to look at a home and they're like, okay, everything's blocked out, I can't show it, and the offers are due on Sunday. I respect everybody's willingness to market it however they want. I always allow overlapping showings. I want to have people in there seeing there are other people looking at the house. And the other thing is, if you say no overlapping showings, you click on to show the house and you see there's nothing going on. Nobody's looking at it. In my mind, you're not representing your seller the best. Nick, you had a thought?
I was just gonna say, it's called a agent. You're gonna go look at a house.
Right. Do you usually set your showings up so there aren't overlapping?
I just go.
Okay,
Hey, I noticed that there's another showing going on. Do you mind if we overlap?
but then you're assuming a listing agent would pick up the phone.
I called the listing agent 14 times.
Wow. Did they ever get back to you?
But they also had 32 showings. So
Well, right.
got it. Do what you gotta do to get someone who want to get.
Because you could always text, I'm busy, I'll call you back, or yeah. No, that is a big frustration. For me, as other agents that don't want to communicate. I mean, I had a buyer put in an offer on a property, 25,000 over list price. I still have never heard back if we got it or not. I'm assuming we haven't, and that's after emails, texts, and calls.
You sent to the broker?
I did not.
I mean, I've had it where, go into showing time, people want to know it, the listing agent, they're like, I am so sorry, my assistant accidentally put in the wrong.
Right,
timeframes
right.
and, we're able to get in.
Yeah,
Hey, we're gonna work on fixing this, but in the meantime, here's the access info if you if you could, just let me know when you'll be there and then email me, some feedback that way while I get the showing time fixed up. You guys
Yeah.
can go in there, no problem, it's ready to go.
Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, like you said, the admin accidentally checked it one way.
And technology glitch.
Yeah.
Sometimes your clients too, they'll add too much of a restriction on when you're willing to show them. That's frustrating.
Yeah,
For me, the only time that it's quote unquote acceptable is if they're working from home, they literally can't leave their
Right.
house. Or if it's tenants. Because then you have to get 24-hour notice. Otherwise, I'm like, you're being really restricted. I don't think you actually want to sell your house as bad as you.
Well,
want to.
right. And that's having the conversation. How bad do you want to sell? Do you care if you get the top dollar? If you don't care if you get the top dollar, that's fine. But I want to know about it. They said, no, I want the most I can get. Well, then you want to be more accessible. I mean, I've had clients that move in a hotel over the weekend just and again, everybody has their own motivation.
I tell someone like, hey, just find a hotel for a weekend with a pool or something, bring
Yeah.
your family over there,
Yeah.
have a little mini vacation, and I'll let you know how the weekend goes on Monday.
Right, right. Do you have something, Nick? Okay, all right. Yeah, so. All again, we can do is advise our clients what will help them get the most money, sell it quickly with the least amount of inconvenience. And then they get to decide if they want to do that or not. They may have their own program. But and again, the way you communicate with other agents, especially when you have a listing, may help or hurt you in the long run. I mean, sometimes agents hold grudges, and part of our ethics, as realtors is to communicate and cooperate with other agents, and some didn't get the memo, I guess. All right. Import listings data directly from KWS. I don't know if we do that, do we? Does anybody do that? Has anybody been on KWLS? Is that just the Keller Williams website, or maybe we'll call this NA, not applicable, proper signage? I don't know, somebody mentioned sign call. Was that you, Scott?
Yeah.
I know about you, but I can't remember the last time I had a sign call. I mean, everybody's on the internet and usually they call you from there. And that is an important thing too, when anybody calls you about a property, find out how they got a hold of you, just so you can kind of watch it and see what's working and what's not.
Agents where they'll take and they'll have a company put the main sign out over their rider on the bottom, physically
Right.
do it themselves. And they've had neighbors or people that have just been walking by that were interested in buying the house, talk to them and they've gotten deals that way because they were physically there at the property.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
It's
you-
to be, removing snow, whatever it is, and people will come up and talk to them, and they've been able to do dual agency deals. all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you never know when the buyers come, where the buyer's coming from. Anything else? All right. Today's agenda, success with co-agents. We're getting close here. But yeah, I think one of the things about dealing with co-agents is just be available, return calls, return emails, return texts, and remember, it's, not about you as an agent. It's about your fiduciary responsibility. Okay, yeah, and they talk about reading the MLS information, and that's the thing too, it's such a fast market, sometimes you see something that just came on, you've been waiting forever, you just go out and show it, and then it says, yeah, we looked at offers at noon and you're showing it too, so save yourself some time, make sure you check the agent remarks, make sure you check any remarks in showing time. Sometimes they put it in the instructions, and it never hurts to try to call the agent, call or text or email them. All right. As we wrap up our learning sessions and transition to our daily success system, let's do a quick review and capture ahas. First, we talked about general best practices to serve out all your clients during the transaction period from agreement to offer, including avoiding how to communicate in a way as to reach the 3 levels of service and operate as a true fiduciary for your clients. Then we covered how to best serve your buyer in the period, including how to utilize their needs analysis and show homes successfully. Afterwards, we covered how to best serve sellers in getting their homes ready to sell, marketing them, and meeting their needs and expectations. Finally, we touched on starting the relationships with your co-agent off right in your initial contact. All right. Any questions or thoughts about this? You know, it's kind of the golden rule with dealing with agents, you know, treat them like you'd like to be treated. And remember, you're always a fiduciary to your clients, and that's the most important thing. Each day in Ignite, you grow in how you think, feel, act, and implement what you've learned. From learning and ahas, you move forward, achievement of your big life. And that's what we're here for, to achieve our big goals. All right, it says to ask you to write in the participation guide how they've grown in each of the areas. All right, so you have some homework to do. You guys been doing much role playing? Do you find that useful?
Depends on the situation.
Okay. Is there anything in particular that somebody would like role played or whatever? So you have all the instructions about the daily success system on your. Okay. So it says for the next 2 hours, what? We will work together on daily success systems, which consist of 20 minutes of role play. 10 minutes preparing a call list for the day, 45 minutes real play. 30 minutes updating your database.
We usually just use it as basically independent study time.
Okay.
Just go our separate ways.
All right, I'm on board with that. And I'm sorry, I never introduced myself to you. What was your name? Andrea. You're what? Oh, okay. So how long have you been in this office then?
We moved over middle of January.
Okay. And you, sir?
Hey, man.
How you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, did everybody get a chance to sign in?
No, not me.
Where, oh, here it is. Thank you. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, you need a pen? Yeah, that's the problem now. Everything's online. Nobody uses pens anymore.
I was keeping a couple of numbers.
Do you? Well, I got a bunch of them and the guy keeps calling me, he wants to sell me more pens. It's like, what do those things even do? All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, everybody else get a chance to sign in? All right. Well, I hope it's been worth your time and hope you guys have learned some stuff. That's the thing, you never stop learning in this business. So independent study time, have at it, guys. You're independent contractors, so
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Can you just, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Okay. You get credit for this?
Yeah.
You will not be here.
Well, no.
Thanks, Doug. Nice meeting you.
Oh. So she's taking just back and really disconnecting for real estate guys. Like, yeah. they're going up to water park. And she's like, yep, so I'm not gonna be doing much of anything, so we're watching the kids and have fun with them. And I'm like, that sounds absolutely wonderful. Like, you can always just.
Warren Weston, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Did you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, I would like to ask you one question. I have triplex coming in Stillwater.
Okay, you're gonna
And I-
list it?
Yeah, I have, but the problem is I can't find any comfort.
Hmm,
So I went
yeah.
like far away, back and forth, try to figure it out.
Yeah, so your only options are to look, you know, geographically or time.
Yeah, I did both. I even
You did
asked.
both?
I did ask appraisal, but still, it's when you go time, the prices.
Well, the other thing you can do they have established tenants in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you could just try to look at, you know, like a duplex, maybe that is asking the same and then it's gonna be maybe a percentage higher, maybe not the full 50% higher.
I did, actually, I come across one that's kind of close, but not the square footage is 1,000 less.
How's the tax assessed value? Is that realistic or no?
Yeah, it is. Actually, the test, it's 365 just recently, but I
Yeah.
assuming it worth
Sure.
more than that.
Yeah,
Because he did a lot of new updated in that property and another thing I struggle. So he rented very low of it compared to the area. And I asked him why, it's like 300 less than compared unit in that area.
yeah.
And he said, because I just want to help my tenant. So now have to figure out the prices.
Do they have long-term leases or no?
One year lease, not long,
All right.
3
okay,
years. I mean, it's a 1 year.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, I was thinking maybe you are new.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe try to find similar areas. I don't know what would compare to Stillwater. I mean, White Bear.
I found some in Ramsey, St. Paul, but the price of.
But then you gotta adjust.
It's just
Yeah.
a lot.
And ultimately, you just tell your seller, well, here's tax assessed value. Here's a duplex in the area, so we could, you know, maybe increase it a little bit, but ultimately, what do you feel comfortable with? Because
We don't receive any on first.
you know, maybe you try 399.9. I mean, what were you thinking?
He was saying that if I get 430 for it, I would be happy.
Oh, he wants 430.
Yeah, and
And then you just say, well, it's up to you what you want to list it with.
I
Let's-
was thinking we should do it at least for 50.
Oh, you think it's worth that much?
Yeah, it does. For, I mean, because of the tax and adjustment and, you know, the
Well, yeah.
area.
And what I try to do is I try to tell people, you know, our initial list price is important, but it's not vital.
Mhm.
As long as we adjust to what the market tells us,
Yeah.
you know, if the market's saying we're not getting
So-
showings, that means the agents don't think it's priced right. If you're not getting offers, that means the buyers don't think it's priced right. So, yeah,
But the good thing is never had any vacancy.
right,
He had it all the time. It was tenant in there and pay for the dues and.
but I would say it's important to let the prospective buyer know how long the leases are good for, because they're probably gonna wanna up them.
Yeah.
Do you know when it is? or-
Yeah, one of them will get, I mean, by the this May, it's gonna go by monthly. And then he just had a contract with one for a year,
Oh, just, okay,
and the other one is gonna be ending like end of this,
Yeah.
3-4 months from now.
yeah, because that's what a lot of investors will look at, your cash flow, your.
And the cash flow on
maintenance.
this property, I mean, I base up even renting it, I mean, it's like a 28 grand.
Wow.
Cash flow last year. And this year, I mean, if they go 300, it's gonna be over. I mean, predicted price, I mean, income
Yeah.
very high, like around 40.
Well, I mean, He said he'd be happy at 430. I mean, you think it's worth 450, you know, you just try
415, I think.
415, okay.
15.
Oh, okay.
No, 15. I
Also
think,
put it on a 4.25, I would say.
I said, that's the only,
Yeah, because my theory is that buyers look at properties in 25,000. You know,
And I have-
increments.
I have one buyer already off market. Start, and one of the
You have
agents,
buyers considering it?
yes, and another agent in our office, when I talked, oh, I have a buyer. So they are trying to figure out the calculate the,
Mhm.
you know, I mean,
Is he under contract yet? The triplex?
yes.
Oh, so you
My-
already have him under contract?
My contract?
Yeah, have you listed it?
No.
But
I
I
have,
I would encourage you to list it as soon as you can and just say we'll do coming soon. You know, because. I mean, I've had it where I'm talking to people about listing and, oh yeah, we'll do that in a couple weeks or whatever, and then,
no, I will definitely, I'm not gonna wait for them, for sure.
right,
But they said they are ready, but I'm trying to figure out the price. As soon as I find the price and agree with it, then
yeah,
I will go on coming soon. And,
right.
try.
But
to
don't let
unlock-
the price hold you up from getting the contract.
Yeah,
signed.
the contract is already signed
Oh.
between me and.
Oh, you do have a listing contract?
Yes, I have a listing contract.
Oh, you
But I haven't listed on the market MLS yet.
Okay,
I have a contract.
okay, because did he sign it with hold?
No, this is what we did.